Today is September 22nd. It's a regularly scheduled city council meeting. Could all please rise and begin the meeting with a prayer. Dear God, today as this session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city, to make it a better place to live and work. Amen. Can we all please salute the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Samaras. Here. Councilor Belanger.
Here.
Mayor Elliott.
Here.
Councilor Kennedy.
Here.
Councilor Leahy.
Here.
Councilor Martin. Here. Councilor Mercia.
Here.
Councilor Milanazzo.
Here.
Councilor Rourke. Here. 9 present.
9 present. Before we begin our regularly scheduled agenda, Chair would like to recognize Councilor Martin. Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to offer a moment of silence in darkened chambers for Richard K. Donahue, a proud son of Lowell and a generous benefactor of the city who died this week. Dick has survived by his wife, Nancy, his wife of 62 years, and it's hard to think of anybody who's been more generous to the city than Dick and Nancy Donahue. They raised 11 children, including everybody's favorite market basket worker, their son Philip. 16 grandchildren. Dick had a very interesting and rewarding, I think for him, a very interesting, rewarding life. He was a partner in the firm Donahue & Donahue, where he started with his father, a firm founded by his grandfather, and he served for many years with his brother Joe. Lots been written about Dick over the last few days, and I think his life's been well summarized in the local media here, the Boston media, even some national press. But what I didn't see reported in many places was that he served on the school committee. Actually served on the school committee in Lowell in the 1950s with Lou Eno, another prominent attorney who was my partner for many years. Dick graduated from Dartmouth College, Boston University Law School, and as most people know, he became an aide to John F. Kennedy and served in the White House. He later served as the president of Nike. But through all that, and those were major and significant accomplishments, and I know they were, it's something we're all proud to have somebody from Lowell in those roles. But if you look back at the course of Dick's 88 years, the time in the White House, the time at Nike was less than 10 years of his life. The rest of the time he was here. He was here in Lowell. He was very interested in what went on here. He supported a great many causes here. He was proud to be a lawyer. He was proud of his family, and he was proud to be from Lowell. He always did whatever he could to make Lowell a better place. He was a Lowellian through and through, and he will be truly missed.
Thank you, Councilor Martin. Councilor Mercia, then Councilor Milanazzo, and Councilor Samaras.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A lot has been written about Mr. Donahue, and as his friend Paul Sugarman said of Mr. Donahue, with all his achievements, he remained modest and unassuming. He was an elegant man, smart, well-intentioned, practical, sincere, witty, and always ahead of his time. The Donahues, having been very successful in life, could have lived anywhere in the world, but they chose Lowell. That was a very important part that I read in the Saturday column. They shared their wealth. They supported and served on many nonprofit boards in the greater Lowell area. Of course, you wouldn't hear of one without the other. As a team, Richard and Nancy together have accomplished a great deal. Mr. Donahue has left an unmatched legacy that will affect our lives and the lives of many long into the future. And I want to offer my sincere Condolences, may he rest in peace, and thank you, Mr. Donahue, for all that you have done for the city and the people of the Merrimack Valley. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Mercia. Council Milonazo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My colleagues have done a very good job summing up Mr. Donahue's contributions to the city, but I'd like to just simply say that I had the very good fortune to work with Dick Donahue between 1984 and 1990. He was the chairman of the board of the Lowell Plan, and I was the executive director at 30 years old. And I have to tell you that he treated me with the utmost respect. He listened to my opinions and taught me how to treat people from all walks of life. He was just a wonderful mentor to me, and those 6 years working with Mr. Donahue, I've cherished my whole professional life. And as my colleagues, Council Martin and Councilor Mercier, have indicated, his community service and his philanthropy and the family he and Nancy, are second to none, and Lowell is a better community because of his involvement. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Council Milonazo. Council Samaras.
Thank you, Mayor Elliott. When you think of Dick Donahue, Lowell lost a giant. We all know that. He reached national prominence in the White House and at Nike. But he'll best be remembered for all the work he's done in Lowell. As headmaster of the high school, I can say Dick and his wife, Nancy, were always there for just about every major event that we had at the high school, making some type of contribution or doing something to help the high school students be the best that they could be. When he was helping to establish the community foundation, I, at that time, same time, had started the High School Scholarship Foundation. When Dick and Peter Stamus came to me and talked to me about putting the high school money in with the community foundation funds. And his rationale for that was that by establishing a community foundation, not only could it help the scholarship program at Lowell High School, but it would certainly help in the quality of life for the citizens of Lowell. That's how he thought. And I think it was, I did the best that I could, and it was the right thing to put the money in the community foundation, listening to people like himself. And the community foundation right now, I believe, has about approximately $30 million. And that money is there in perpetuity to help the citizens of Lowell. And that's what he did, and that's what his wife is continuing to do. So we have to applaud all that has been done, and he will truly be missed. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Samaras. Could we all please rise for a moment of silence, and could we please darken the chambers? May he rest in peace. Now proceed to the regularly scheduled agenda. First item on the agenda, we have minutes from the city, on the city clerk. We have minutes from the city council meeting of September 8th. We have minutes from the Public Safety Subcommittee also on September 8th for acceptance. Motion to accept the minutes and place on file by Council Belanger, seconded by Council Kennedy. All those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed, motion carries. Minutes are accepted and placed on file. First item we have under unfinished business, we have an order for the abandonment of a portion of Edward Street. Okay, this requires two readings. Motion to waive this lengthy document, the full reading by Council Leahy, seconded by Council Martin. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion carries. Second reading by title. Commonwealth of Massachusetts, City of Lowell, and City Council is an order to vacate, discontinue, and abandon certain public interests, rights, and easements in a portion of Edward Street in the City of Lowell. Questions, comments, discussion? Move to approve by Council Mercia, second by Council Milonazo. Roll call.
Council Samaras.
Yes.
Council Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
Council Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Martin.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Milonazo.
Yes.
Council Rourke.
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas, motion passes. There are a number of public hearings scheduled for 7 o'clock. We will put those on hold until 7 p.m. We'll move on to next section of the agenda, which is communications from the city manager. There are a number of communications. First one, we'll start with communication response A, monitoring city parks. Comments on motion response A. Councilor Samaras.
Thank you, Mayor Elliott. I want to thank the manager for this report, which talks about in general what's being done at many of the parks, but also especially what has been done at the South Common. Could I ask the city manager just to give an outline as to what the police have been doing at the South Common? Then after that, I'd like the city solicitor to talk about the importance of the ordinance, Chapter 214. Mr. Manager.
Mr. Manager?
Yes, if you don't mind, the police superintendent is here, and I'll have him specifically tell what the police are doing for
Perfect, thank you.
for that.
Evening, Chief. Welcome.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, to the City Council, we have taken a look at all the city parks across the city, and we've stepped up our enforcement activity in the city parks, specifically at the South Common. We found that there were a number of individuals using the South Common to congregate and set up some temporary encampments there during the daytime and then into the evening. So what we've done is we've worked with the city DPW department. The debris that they've put there has been taken down and removed from the park. We've also increased our enforcement activity to make sure that people are utilizing the park during the daytime hours and not after the curfew per the ordinances comes into place. And so we're making sure that it conforms to the use of the park and not people using it to essentially stay overnight in the area. So I've been up there personally, and we have the sector captain that is responsible for that area, make sure that that is followed through on a pretty much a daily basis. So we're trying to keep up on top of it.
No, Chief Chair, I want to thank you because I've heard from a number of people who've talked about, the difference that it has made. I think sometimes people don't understand about the ordinance, about the closing hours, why it's necessary to close the park and what powers it does give the police to do. Could you explain that a little more so
Well,
people can understand that?
Thank you. Most city parks are closed 1 hour after sunlight until 1 hour before dawn in the morning, and that allows to make sure that the park is used properly for recreation and other activities that conform with the council and the ordinance. And what we do is when the park is determined to be closed per the ordinance, we make sure that we go through the park and make sure that people aren't spending overnight there and essentially setting up encampments there, especially in the good weather. And that serves multiple purposes. Most importantly, it deters crime, and it deters any criminal activity that may be happening in the nighttime hours in those the various parks that are scattered across the city. So I think it makes sure that no illegal activity are occurring in the parks.
No, again, I want to thank the chief and all his people for what they're doing, the city manager for bringing this forward, because, we have so many families in Lowell, and the parks are very important to them because, as sometimes Councilor Mercia has said, we have a lot of families that just can't travel off to Maine or go somewhere else, and what we have in Lowell is what we have for them, and to ensure that the parks are safe and it's a place where people can go and relax. It's a wonderful thing. And when we talk about the people living in the parks, there is empathy for those people, but the thing is, the park is not for them to where they should be living. There's a lot of housing, there's a lot of programs that will help these people. And by using the law, in a sense, we are helping them. We're not putting them off the street. We're putting them in a safer place and making the park safer. So, Chief Taylor, thank you for all that work.
Thank you, Councilor. That's an important point. When we do find people in the park that need a place to live and some services, we make sure that we put them in connection with the appropriate social service agency that can help them. So nobody is just removed from the park and left on their own. We always make sure that we provide them a place that and a service agency that can help them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Further discussion on motion response A, monitoring of city parks. Seeing none, we'll move on to motion response B, no parking during snow emergency signs. Seeing none, we'll move, no comments, we'll move on to motion response C, Victorian street lighting along Merrimack Street. Council Kennedy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just, regarding response C and E, so they don't have to speak again, both reports are good reports. I was pretty happy with what they were written, and hopefully we can do something with regard to both of those initiatives going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Further discussion, comments on motion response C? Seeing none, we'll move on to motion response D, C Street paving. Councilor Leahy.
Thank you. Thank you for the report. There really is only one section that's bad on that street, as the report indicates, so I just didn't know, we brought this up at the last meeting. Maybe that's something we can look at for next year and really just do the bad part of the street, because the top half isn't in that bad a shape, and they've done a good job repairing the potholes over the last year or so. So after looking at that in the report and taking a drive up there, and then, of course, the sidewalks are a whole different issue, but I'm sure they'll address those. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Leahy. Further discussion on motion response D. We'll move on to motion response E, Clark and Douglas Road. Seeing no comments, we'll move on to motion response F, events at Lowell Memorial Auditorium and Songus Arena. Moving on to motion response G, downtown hotel as part of the Hamilton Canal District. Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When we talked about a hotel, it seemed like the report said that it wasn't feasible, that there wouldn't really be a need for it as far as it seemed. But I often thought that I remembered that when we sold the Songus Arena to the UMass Lowell and Chancellor Mann, that there was a portion there that a hotel could have been built in, and I thought we had some sort of an agreement that that would possibly happen in time, that it wasn't pressing on the agenda for UMass Lowell, that they wanted to do a rink, like a practice rink, and that was more prevalent in their plans than a hotel. Now it seems like people move on and it's just not there anymore, but that's an agreement that I thought we had, and yet there's no plans for a hotel. But they did point out in the article that I read, the report that I got, that there's always the Radisson in Chelmsford and the Days Inn in Tewksbury, and I don't care about Tewksbury or Chelmsford. I mean, I know we could all care about everybody else, but I certainly care about our city, and I thought I'd like to give the hotel tax and the spin-off of that to our city, you know, but maybe it's not feasible because we probably don't have a lot of events taking place in the first place. So I don't, it's just like a letdown to me that it wasn't a response that I was hoping for. I thought we had an agreement that seemed to have fallen out the window.
Through you, Mayor. First of all, the report starts with the premise that a study that was commissioned previously said there wasn't a market for it, but that doesn't mean that the climate hasn't changed in the city, and hopefully as part of this RFQ, we will get somebody that might be interested in building a hotel. But you've got to understand that that parcel of land that you're talking about is controlled by a commission, which University of Massachusetts Lowell has the most votes on. And at this point in time, they don't want to build there. They don't think there's a need for a hotel, and they don't want to build a hotel on. So they really control the parcel, and they don't want to build a hotel there right now. So any agreement in the past, there's no future for a hotel on that spot right now. But what we're saying is, if the climate has changed, if the market conditions has changed in Lowell, then as part of this RFQ, we would accept a proposal to build a boutique hotel in the Hamilton Canal District.
Councilor?
I just hope we can see the plans through at one point, that the city is so vibrant enough that we're looking to build a hotel. I would hope we could do that. That's all.
Thank you, Council. Thank you, Mr. Manager. Further discussion on, it's Council Belanger, then Council Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, I too, that's why I made the motion. I share Councilor Mercier's frustration. I'm sure many other of my colleagues. This has been a big waiting game. We're waiting. And from what I understand, the university at one time or another did do studies. They wanted it built privately. They didn't exactly want to take on the risk. But the studies came back like it was not feasible to do such a project at that time. Now, I believe the climate in the city has changed and has gotten better. We need a hotel for our economic development purposes, so we can host conventions. So families and individuals can stay there and enjoy all the venues in the downtown, as the song is, the auditorium and MRT and whatnot. And this is on our shoulders, simple as that. But at least it's revisited, Councilor Mercier and everybody else. It's now, the language is in there on the Hamilton Canal RFQ. Who knows what can come up? Previous feasibility studies aren't very favorable. We understand that. But it's being revisited. And who knows what somebody else may do their own, and who knows what they may come up with. So let's just hope for the best. It's a second chance at this, I guess, if you will. But at least, Mr. Manager, that you did hear the council's request. It's in the RFQ, so I do want to thank you and Planning and Development for putting the language in there that hopefully can raise an eyebrow to the potential developer. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Council. Council Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, I saw the report as being quite a bit more positive than that. I recall that the university was interested in putting a small boutique hotel there. I think the study showed that the market for the rooms just isn't there right now. But I do think that that it's a positive thing that we included it in the RFQ. I thought the motion was a good motion. And hopefully down the road, there will be a market for that. And I think that whatever the developer is chosen for over at the Hamilton Canal District, at least that's one thing that'll be on their mind. And hopefully we can have one in the future. But there has to be, anybody that's going to develop a hotel either over at the Songus Arena or over in the Hamilton Canal District is going to do that based on, any prudent developer is going to do a market study first. And if the market study says that there's not enough of a market here because of the hotels in the surrounding communities, then they're going to wait. I would say that if there was a market for the boutique hotel, that the university probably would have one up by now. And so that market's just not there right now, but it doesn't mean that it won't be there in the future. And so I saw the report as being a rather positive report.
Further discussion on motion. Response G. Seeing none, we'll motion to accept the motion responses, accept them and place them on file by Council Rourke, seconded by Council Samaras. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed. That motion passes. Reports
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Mercier.
Mr. Mayor, before we proceed further into the manager's portion of the agenda, and before 7 o'clock comes that we're tying it up with this public hearings, I'd like to suspend the rules to take an item out of order for the sake of a person that has asked us if we could do that, and proceed to 9.4, which is miscellaneous petition by LaTanya Johnson, please.
Motion to suspend the rules by Council Mercier, seconded by Council Milonazo. Suspend the rules and take an item out of order on the agenda that's been posted. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. In the opposed, that motion carries. Moving on to 9.4 on the agenda. This is on the petition section of the agenda. This is a miscellaneous petition by LaToya Johnson of 21 Mill Court, 21 Mill Street Court. Request to have Mill Court, a.k.a. Mill Street Court, paved. Ms. Johnson, we know your name, we know your address, so, but for the record?
LaTanya Johnson, and I live at 21 Mill Court, also known as 14 Mill Street Court. Down at City Hall, it's 14 Mill Street Court. Would you like me to read my letter?
Go ahead, Dallin.
Okay. Dear City Clerk / City Council, I'm writing this request to please ask you to pave my street, Mill Court. I've been asking the DPW and the city to pave my street since I moved into my home in 1991. I've been on the paving list at the DPW for over 15 years. Originally, I was on Mr. Walsh's list, and then Mr. Snow inherited the list, and I assume I'm still on it. The street is all mud. When it rains, it is one big mess. And my next-door neighbor cemented his front yard for parking, and the way it's pitched, it just adds to the problem. I have a river running down Mill Court. When I get out of my car to go into my home, I have to literally jump over the stream of running water and jump over giant puddles. Try doing that with bags of groceries and a small child on your hip. I raised my 3 children in this home. They've all grown up, gone to college, and left the nest. But I'm still here, and I'm not going anywhere. Please help me. I read in your neighborhood services pamphlet that if a Lowell citizen has a quality of life issue, that the city would do all it can to help that person. Well, I am a Lowell citizen, a homeowner, a voter, and of course a taxpayer. My quality of life has been impaired since I moved into my home in 1991. And the force of water is so strong when it rains, or my neighbor washes his car, or empties his kid's swimming pool, the water leaks into my cellar. Now I have water damage. Now I have water damage in my basement. I can only imagine the mold that is growing behind my walls down there. It is always damp and wet smelling, and I always see puddles on the floor at different times. I'm a struggling, disabled student, and I can't afford to fix a mold problem. And I would say that mold is definitely a quality of life issue, especially with my asthma. I have attached a copy of your brochure that ensures me that you will try to help me with this situation. I am the only house left on Mill Court, also known as Mill Street Court. All the other houses were torn down or burned down. The city finally started plowing me in the winter. Mr. Snow and Mr. Benoit have been quick to dig me out every storm, and I'm very grateful. I'll stop now because I know you all are very busy and this letter's getting too long. Please help me, and thank you for your time.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you for taking the time to come down for us to write the letter and call to our attention this issue. We'll go Mr. Manager, then Council Leahy, then Council Kennedy, and Council Marcia. Well, Mr. Manager, what can we do for?
Well, I know that I already talked to Mr. Snow, that he's plowing you out, and rest assured, we will address the issues up there. I can't, it's not a public way, and that's one of the problems, is the money we can't get from Chapter 90 funds. It's a private way. But we will do what we can, and I promise I'll look into it and help out in any way that we can.
Thank you very much, City Manager.
Council Leahy, Councilor Kennedy, Councilor Marcia.
Sure, thank you. Just one observation, and I know that, everybody is a lot of new people and departments, new management and everything, but, this is one of those things where if someone's been bringing this up since 1991, the street should have been accepted by now, if that's the process that we have to do. So is that where we're going with this? We accept the street and then we can pave it with our own funds, or?
Mr. Manager?
No? Okay.
No, you have to pave it, bring it up to standards, and then accept it.
Oh, so it's paved first?
Right, and then it's accepted.
All right, and if it's a street that really doesn't have...
Hold on one
Okay.
second. Lisa, can you come up and explain what has to be done with this pave?
Sure.
So, can we just go back? Who owns the road? It's privately owned?
In this case, there is no road. There's
Okay.
no right-of-way at all. The abutting properties all touch each other. The driveway that she's talking about is paved across several different properties. And she's a very nice woman, and she has been in, and we've talked to her. But it's not even a matter of it being an unaccepted street. It's not a street in any legal sense of the term. It's just all private property abutting each other that someone paved across. So there's no street to accept.
So what can we do to help, Ms. Johnson?
Our suggestion to her in the past has been to get the neighbors together and that they could do it. It's private, it's all private property. And that as a group, they could get together. We would help them find a contractor and get the right specs so that it would be done properly. But I didn't see any way to be able to spend public funds on private property.
So, Ms. Johnson, are there neighbors? I mean, you indicated you're the only one there and the other properties are burned, or?
Well, according to my deed, it says that that way has to be kept open for my easement, you know, my being able to get in and out of my house. So even though they do abut the property, I mean the street, they don't use it for any. I'm the only one that uses it for anything to get in and out of my house.
Okay.
All right, I guess it's just frustrating that all these years, maybe we've led her to believe that there's a solution, and now we're all putting our heads together to really come up with a solution, so, thank you.
This is,
Council
Thank you
Kennedy?
very much.
Council Kennedy and Council Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to the mayor. There's always a solution,
Yeah.
is what I think. And so maybe we can't use Chapter 90 monies, but we should be able to do something. I mean, you know, this woman's paying taxes there, and it's just a public safety issue. So I would hope that, and maybe what we need to do is get the neighborhood around there involved, if there needs to be a discussion with the abutting property owners. But we should be able to do some sort of pavement up there to make things better than the way they are now. Can we get a report on this in, you know, in the next 2 or 3 weeks or something, when there's a resolution, or at least some sort of plan going forward on how and when this would get done? Thanks.
If I may interrupt, if you don't mind, my neighbors have all said that they would be willing to sign a petition, also asking the city to please pave it, because they know what I've been going through. And my street is also part of the route of the beautification project for downtown Lowell. I don't know if we could use that angle, or, plus in the wintertime, if it were paved, it would be a lot easier to pave the snow, and would create less man hours needed and less special equipment in order to get me dug out, because they have to use a big front end loader as it is right now. And at one point it was gravelled, but every time they plow the gravel, they make some mound of gravel at the end of the street. So it's down to the mud now again. The gravel's all gone.
So, Ms. Johnson, I think what we're going to have to try to do is get the other property owners, because there is no public property. It's all private land that abut each other, and
Yes.
so I think that's what the direction the manager and his staff will have to do. But before we continue, Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The greatest word spoken this evening: there is always a solution.
Yes.
There is always a solution. I don't ever see things as black or white. I always look for the gray area. This is a gray area. This lady is a taxpayer. We didn't say that it's black and white. You don't have to pay taxes because it's not really a legal way, a legal street. You pay your taxes. There is always a way. This is a gray area. Something has to be done, honest to God, for God's sakes.
Thank you, Rita.
So,
opinion.
just, Mr. Manager, will you be in touch with Ms. Johnson, and we'll get that process going?
would you, is Karen
Okay.
here?
She's,
Would you get her contact information so we can follow up with her?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome.
Your Honor.
You're welcome.
and
Thank you.
City Manager. Thank you, Rita. Thank you, Councilman Laney. Thank you.
So entertain a motion to refer this to the city manager for report and recommendation by Council Mercer, seconded by Council Kennedy. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye, and the opposed, that motion carries. That concludes item number 9.4. It's after 7 o'clock. We will go to the public hearings that have been advertised. First public hearing is a general public hearing. It's a vote to adopt and approve the hazardous mitigation plan for the Northern Middlesex region, 2015 update. This is the second reading. So we will now proceed to open the public hearing for anyone wishing to speak in favor. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of adopting and approving the hazardous mitigation plan for Northern Middlesex region? Council, I'm sorry, you had a flood meeting on this tonight, correct?
Yes,
Subcommittee.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, I can give a report on the meeting before.
Yes, we should. So we opened it, and we'll just go to the hearing. I'd like to recognize the chairman of the flood subcommittee who had held a meeting on this, Council Rourke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, tonight at 5 p.m. we had a flood subcommittee meeting concerning the hazard mitigation plan. Joining myself, Council Mercer, and Council Belanger was also Council Leahy, Council Molinazzo, Jay Donovan from NEMCOG, George Rose, and Lisa DeMayo, the city engineer. And what tonight covered, Mr. Mayor, was a plan that would be put in place that covers a wide variety of natural disasters and also the severity of any possible disaster that could happen within the city of Lowell. The plan did take 4 years to put together. And this is an action plan that covers Lowell for the next 5 calendar years. This is very important because once this plan is voted on and approved, we'll be eligible for FEMA funding and grant opportunities. Lowell and its surrounding cities and towns need to have this plan in place in order to apply for a certain amount of grants through FEMA. This plan allows for Lowell to be proactive in applying for federal funding. It's very extensive, very detailed. Mr. Rose gave examples of floods, hurricanes, tornadoes, any type of natural disaster situation that the city may be in. At that being said, Council Mercer had made a motion to approve the plan and to send it to the council this evening for a formal vote, rather. And Mr. Mayor, you do have a copy of the certificate of adoption of Lowell's mitigation plan at your desk. It was done 3-0 at the vote at the flood subcommittee, and it's presented now for the council to vote on this evening for adoption. And once again, Lowell will be eligible for FEMA money and for grant opportunities. So with that, Mr. Mayor, that's a report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. We appreciate that. So we'll open and close both parts of the public hearing, then we'll take up that motion or recommendation from the subcommittee after we close that hearing. Okay, so is anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone else in favor? In favor, seeing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. We'll now open up this portion of the public hearing for anyone wishing to speak in opposition. In opposition? Anyone opposed? Seeing none, we'll now close that portion of the public hearing. Would you like to, any discussion, further discussion on this? We'll entertain that motion by Councilor Rourke, seconded by Councilor Mercia to, from the subcommittee to endorse and recommend adoption and approval of the hazard mitigation plan. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye, and the opposed motion carries. Councilor Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a very cost-saving measure for the city. This vote tonight is very important. NIMCOG and Jay Donovan, as well as our hazardous representative of the city, they actually put this form together. They compiled Table 87 of this preparedness for the city, and it's a great deal of work that went into this. This is a plan that's in place not to try to get money from FEMA after the situation or hazard has happened, but if we anticipate what could possibly happen, we could apply for the funding to get the money to correct the situation before it actually happens. So I think this is a great deal of work, and it's a great vote that we should support this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. All set? Okay, motion to accept adopt and approve the hazard mitigation plan for Northern Middlesex region by Council Samaras, second by Council Belanger. Roll call.
Council Samaras.
Yes.
Council Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
Council Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Martin.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Milonazo.
Yes.
Council Rourke.
Yes.
That's 9 yeas.
9 yeas. Motion is approved. Move on to the next public hearing. On the general public hearings, this is an ordinance to amend Chapter 56 entitled Personnel Positions Enumerated, the Lowell Regional Wastewater Treatment Utility for an electrician. That is the second reading. We will now open up this portion of the public hearing for anyone wishing to speak in favor. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Anyone in favor? Seeing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. We'll now open up this portion of the public hearing for anyone wishing to speak in opposition. In opposition? In opposition, seeing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed as well. What is the wish of the body?
Move approval.
Move approval by Council Mercia, second by Council Martin. Roll call.
Council Samaras.
Yes.
Council Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
Council Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Martin.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Milonazo.
Yes.
Council Rourke.
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas, ordinance is adopted. And still under public hearings, we have a utility public hearing for National Grid requesting the installation of one pole at Oak Ave. Now open up this portion of the public hearing for anyone wishing to speak in favor. We have someone. Just name and address, organization for the record, please.
How you doing, Council? Sam Eng, North Andover Design. National Grid would like to install pole 3 on Oak Street, Oak Avenue. We're removing a pole from 72 Arch Street, which is a backyard pole that has a hole in it. So we want to move that for the customer. And in order to feed 39 Chelmsford Street Culligan water, we'd have to install this pole 3 on Oak Ave.
Okay, thank you very much. Questions? Appreciate you attending. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone else in favor? Seeing none, we'll close that portion of the public hearing. Now open up this portion of the public hearing for anyone wishing to speak in opposition. In opposition? In opposition, is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, we will close that portion of the public hearing as well. What is the wish of the body? You're right. So we'll entertain a motion to refer this to the wire inspector for report and recommendation made by Council Kennedy, seconded by Council Leahy. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed. That motion carries. It's going to the wire inspector. We'll come back with a report and recommendation. That concludes public hearings. So we will now proceed to communications from the city manager, 5.2. We have a communication to reappoint Jeffrey Wilson to the Lowell Disability Commission.
Move approval.
Move approval by Council Mercia, second by Council Milonazo. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Roll call.
Council Samaras.
Yes.
Council Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
Council Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy.
Abstain.
Council Martin.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Milonazo.
Yes.
Council Rourke.
Yes.
That's 8 yeas.
I think you can vote, Council.
All right, well, I wasn't sure if you can vote if
There's
you're on
no
the board, so
conflict.
yes, okay. Thank you.
Switch it. We'll
I
switch
think
that
you
to
better
yes.
vote yes if you're 9 yeas, motion passes. We thank Mr. Wilson for his continued service on the Lowell Disability Commission. They work pretty hard. Moving on to the next item, we have a communication from the city manager. It's a request for out-of-state travel for one individual from the library, one individual from the Greater Lowell Workforce Investment Board. Comments, questions, concerns? Motion to approve by Council Samaras, seconded by Council Rourke. Roll call.
Council Samaras.
Yes.
Council Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
Council Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Martin.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Milonazo.
Yes.
Council Rourke.
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas, motion carries. Moving on to the next section of the agenda, we have votes from the city manager. We have a vote approving a certified project application for Somerset Industries Incorporated, and authorizing a tax increment financing agreement for Phoenix Ave LLC. I'd like to refer to the city Councilor Kennedy, then Councilor Belanger.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the city manager, I just have a couple of questions regarding this. This property on Phoenix Avenue is currently owned by the U.S. Postal Service? And
That's
so it's-
correct.
And it's tax exempt?
Correct.
And so it's being sold, and the amount of taxes that the city will realize in new tax revenue from the sale of this will be $85,000?
I have it at $84,260.
That's close enough.
Yeah.
And,
This is new tax revenue that hasn't been seen in the city of Lowell because it was tax exempt property. Now that we have attracted this company because of this minimal TIF, because you've got to understand, this company has been designated a manufacturing company by the state, so they're exempt from personal property taxes. So the only exemption they're going to be getting is this relief from taxes on the incremental increase in the value of the property. We've even assessed it at a higher price than they purchased it for. So the 2.5 is more than they purchased it for, and we're assessing them and taxing them at that higher price. So it's a wonderful opportunity for the city. It generates a lot of tax revenue that we haven't seen before, and it attracts 40 new employees from North Billerica to the city of Lowell and guarantees an additional 18 new employees during the term of the TIF. And I want to point out that we included that language relative to hiring local residents of Lowell as part of these 18 jobs. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity to attract this, and a great question, because I think it had gone unnoticed until now that we're generating $85,000 in new taxes by this deal.
right, Mr. Manager, and I think everybody should be pretty pleased with that. And so what the TIF will affect is the increment in taxes over time, the time of over the term of the TIF, and any improvements that the new owners make to the property as well.
Correct.
That would be exempt.
Correct.
But that's about it. But you still have that $85,000. I think is worth pointing out, because it's $85,000 more to the tax roll, and I think it's not huge, but it's certainly significant, and it's kind of what we're talking about when we talk about economic development.
Absolutely. It's a great opportunity, and the owner of the business is here this evening. He's present here this evening, and I think it's great that he has recognized the vibrancy of coming to Lowell. And did you want to ask him this?
Yeah, let's, we have one more. All set, Council Kennedy?
Well,
I'm all set. Thank
Okay.
you.
So, Council Belanger?
Mr. Mayor, if I could, since the owner's here, if he could, before I questions, Mr. Mayor, I'd like if the owner could step up and give the nature of the business, a little dialogue. I think that would be great.
Sounds good. Mr. Manager, I'd like to do the introduction.
Yes, could you please step to the rostrum here and identify yourself and just tell us what your plans are and why you came to Lowell?
Well, yeah, first, welcome to City Hall, but first of all, welcome to the city of Lowell. We thank you for choosing the city.
My name is George Athanasiadis, and I'm the president of the company. One of the reasons we are planning to move here, actually we are moving as we speak, is first of all the labor supply that is very attractive to us here. The University of Lowell, that we use consultants and students for summer jobs or during their vacation. I'd like to point out that we are probably the only manufacturers of restaurant equipment in the country that didn't go overseas. We are investing a substantial amount of money into the business, and one of the reasons we are doing that is the opportunities that thankfully you people are extending to us. We are a 60-year-old company. We manufacture everything that we sell in-house. So we are looking forward to being Lowell and proceed with the opportunity.
Well, thank you. Again, I'm sure there's the other questions, but, well, thank you for keeping the jobs and the company in the United States to begin with.
And Mr. Mayor, Attorney George Theodoro, I represent Somerset Industries. They are in the investment that they're making. Initially, it's going to be a $1.2 million investment in equipment that is being placed in this facility. With the improvements that they're making on the property, will be a total of $2.5 million over the next 5 years. And what they're looking at is, yes, we have in the application an increase in 18 jobs over 5 years. And Mr. Athanasiadis will say that that is a conservative estimate because we're bound by that through the agreement with the city, but we estimate that will contribute more than 18 jobs over the next 5 years. It's a wonderful opportunity. It's a wonderful opportunity for this company that is an innovator in creating restaurant equipment products that they ship all over the country and all over the world. They're looking for a wonderful opportunity here in Lowell. And we want to thank the administration for the opportunity to do that and to make this investment here. So we're open to any other questions that you may have.
Thank you. Council Belanger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for that presentation, and I welcome Somerset Industries to Lowell. Mr. Manager, I commend you and your staff once again. I mean, at a quick glance, this may seem like a very generous TIF, but in reality, it is not. We're talking about an exempt property how long has that property been vacant now, Mr. Manager? Okay.
Post office was giving up the site, but I think it hasn't been vacant.
Okay, but it's like, it's tax exempt at the very least, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, this is another example. We have a company relocating from Borica to Lowell, and it's towns and communities like Borica, Burlington, Bedford, coming up Route 3 that we are competing with, that have the corporate parks that are far more attractive. So we have to get aggressive, and that's what we're doing. And this is how we create jobs, by being proactive and offering TIFs. And if that's what it takes, that's what we need to do. So, Mr. Manager, great job. I commend all involved, and I think this is great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Council. Further discussion? Council Kennedy?
I just can't let this go. I'm sure that Council Belanger didn't mean to say that Billerica, Burlington, or Bedford are far more attractive for industries than Lowell.
I'll take that back, Council. Thank you.
Council Samaras?
Actually, I'm all set, but the thing is, I want to commend the city manager, for putting this together. If we're talking about, well, we wouldn't need to do it at Hamilton Mills and all over the city, literally. But this is an example of taking a local company and really helping it to achieve, and that's what it's all about. So I want to commend the manager and his team for doing the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Samaras. Mr. Manager, did you have something else?
Yeah, just in conclusion, I'd like to take all the credit, but it really belongs to Diane Tradd, Allison Lammy, and Maria Dickinson, who really did a great job. And I know Attorney Theodoro told me when he came in that this Planning and Development Office was terrific to deal with, wide open and willing to attract people.
Yeah, my hat goes off to them. They were wonderful in working with us, wonderful in working with the state in doing everything and putting this together, which can be a complicated process. So thank you very much.
Great work. Keep it up. Further discussion on this motion? Second reading, we'll need a motion to suspend the rules. It's another lengthy document. Motion to suspend the rules to waive the full second reading by Council Samaras, second by Council Rourke. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion carries. Second reading by title, and City Council's a vote approving a certified project application for Somerset Industries Incorporated and authorizing a tax increment financing agreement for Phoenix Ave. Motion to approve by Councilor Samaras, second by Councilor Milanazzo. Roll call.
Council Samaras.
Yes.
Council Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
Council Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Martin.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Milanazzo.
Yes.
Council Rourke.
Yes.
That's 9 yeas.
9 yeas, motion carries. TIF is approved. Thank you very much. Congratulations. We look forward to the groundbreaking. Ribbon cutting. Moving on to the next item, we have a vote from, orders from the city manager. We have an order for a 60-day trial of various locations. Motion to waive the full reading of the 60-day order of intersection changes, traffic changes by Council Rourke, seconded by Council Mercia. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion carries. Second reading by title in City Council is an order pursuant to Chapter 266 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, concerning Section 266-6 thereof, entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations. Temporary traffic regulations are hereby implemented for a period of 60 days. Motion to approve by Council Martin, seconded by Council Leahy. Roll call.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
Counsel Belanja.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Martin.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas. That concludes orders from the city manager. Next section of the agenda, we have reports subcommittee. If any, we had flood issues subcommittee this evening. It was reported out by Council Rourke. Motion to accept that report as a report of progress and place on file by Council Rourke, seconded by Council Milonazo. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, that motion is accepted, and report is accepted as a report of progress. Next subcommittee, we had a neighborhood subcommittee this evening as well. Chair would like to recognize the chairman of that subcommittee, Council Leahy.
Thank you, Your Honor. So tonight, the neighborhood subcommittee met. Myself, Councilor Mercia, Councilor Samaras, also present, Mr. Troop, Mr. Slagle, Mr. Navin from the city departments, Mr. Mike Damaris. We had a discussion, the meeting was held to discuss parking in the back central neighborhood, discussing the use of the placards or residential parking. We had a good discussion. Basically, what we agreed to look at is the frustration over some of the enforcement with the placards, and just to make sure that we can take a look at the parking on the one-way streets, placard placement, and again, enforcement of maybe illegal placards to make sure that they're taken down to the best of our ability, and just to really find out who needs to take a look at some of the enforcement. So we're going to have the parking department take a look at that. So it was a report of progress. We're going to get a report from the parking department on this, and also bring this report back to the back central neighborhood meeting, hopefully in about a month with Mr. Damaris. So that was about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Leahy. Further discussion on that subcommittee report. Motion to accept the report as a report of progress and place on file by Council Leahy, seconded by Councilor Kennedy. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion passes. Chair would like to recognize the Smith-Baker Redevelopment Committee. Building Committee met this evening. Chair would like to recognize Councilor Milonazo. Councilor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate you giving me an opportunity to report on the mayor's task force met this evening at 5:30 to discuss the development proposal for the Smith-Baker Center submitted by the Coalition for a Better Acre. And again, congratulations to the administration and the work that they've done with the coalition to really bring us to a point where the task force did vote this evening to recommend to the full council that we accept their proposal with some language in the agreement whereby the city will set timelines and deadlines, if you will, as we go forward. It's a very exciting proposal. They're looking at putting together a cultural center. They're actually calling it the Jack Kerouac Center. And on the ground floor, they're going to have Center for Innovation and Learning, working with Middlesex Community College and UMass Lowell and the City of Lowell. They're going to have a commercial kitchen in the building to rent out for independent caterers to use the facility. They really hope to attract nonprofit organizations like the Anchor Dance Troupe, Lowell Celebrates Kerouac, and others to use the building. And then on the upper floor, which is this beautiful performance space, they're going to have 750 to 850 seat performance center up there that they'll be able to make available for various community meetings, political debates, if you will, concerts and other ticketed performances that could be available. The total project cost is estimated to be about $16.5 million. I believe the purchase price that they've offered the city is $300,000. They're going to be looking at a 2-year period to garner financing. They anticipate the financing would be about $2.5 million, and the rest of the monies would be raised through historic tax credits and then development tax credits as well. And they need some lead time in order to apply for those tax credits. They're also going to be working with the Community Foundation and others to really raise money for this particular venue, and I think that based upon what I heard tonight and what others in the room heard tonight, I think that they're going to be successful in doing that. So they hope to have 2 years to raise the funds, to borrow the money, and then start construction in late 2017 with an opening late 2018. So again, congratulations to the administration, the mayor's office for putting the task force together. We actually only met twice. And we were pleased with what we heard this evening from the Coalition for Better Acre. And I anticipate probably at the next meeting, Mr. Manager, that we'll have a vote recommending that the City Council approve moving forward with this proposal with the appropriate language the manager outlined this evening. So that's a report of progress.
Very complex project, but I think you summed it up well. It is exciting. This is bona fide, one of the only bona fide proposals that we have received, and many letters of support from both universities, both colleges, Lowell Plan, Congresswoman Songa, Senator Donnie. What they need to do is they need to get going. They have many, many generous donators, individuals that are willing to donate, philanthropists. So motion was to bring that forward as a report of progress and endorsement by Councilor Mercia. Seconded by Council Milanazzo. Further votes to accept the RFP will be forthcoming and to enter into an agreement with language to protect the city throughout those 2 years during the fundraising times. Council Belanger, all set? You're at the meeting. Okay, all those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye, and the opposed. Motion passes. Report is accepted and placed on file. There's just one item while we're still under reports. It's just a mention. Arnie Muskovitz had asked that I mention tonight's City Council meeting at the Merrimack Valley chapters of Parents of Murdered Children will be hosting their 8th annual National Day of Remembrance this Friday, September 25th at 6:30 p.m. for anyone that is interested in attending.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, thank you. On our desk this evening, we received from the manager's office September upcoming events. Just one minor correction: the LDFC Lowell Plan meeting this Thursday is at 7 a.m. and not 7:30. So I just want to make sure that if my colleagues plan to attend, it's at 7 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. For either items while we're under reports or committee reports. Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item is 8.3. That has been withdrawn. National Grid, Verizon, New England. They asked us to take that off the agenda. I think we don't need a motion, right? So we'll move on to 8.4, another report from the wire inspector. 186 Communications LLC Wave Guide. Request permission to install underground conduit at Westford Street and Technology Drive. Entertain a motion to accept and adopt the accompanying report by Councilor Belanger, seconded by Councilor Samaras. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed. Motion passes. That concludes reports section of the agenda. We move on to petitions. Item number 9. 9.1 is a claim for, we have claims, one for property damage and one for personal injury. Entertain a motion to refer this to the Law Department for a report and recommendation by Councilor O'Rourke, seconded by Councilor Milanazzo. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed. Motion passes. Next petition is another miscellaneous petition by Mr. Gilmero Pagan. Is that right?
Guillermo.
Guillermo Pagan. Thank you, Counselor. Request installation of one handicap parking sign at 638 Market Street, number 272. Motion to refer this to the Traffic Department by Counselor Marcia. Report and recommendation. Second by Counselor Martin. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed. Motion passes. This is referred to the traffic engineer for report and recommendation. Still another miscellaneous petition. Russell Michael Hamill by Attorney George Elides requests change of zoning to extend the neighborhood business use to parcels located at 8 and 20 Stockbridge Avenue and 9 Magnolia Street. Need a motion to refer this to the Law Department to draft an ordinance. Motion by Counsel Kennedy, seconded by Counsel Belanger. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed. Motion passes. This is referred to the Law Department. 9.4, we already have taken up and addressed that petition. That brings us to Section 10. We have City Council motions. First motion of the evening by Councilor Mercia. Request City Manager meet with Department of Planning and Development to discuss ways to mediate the issues with residents who abut the Concord River walkway. Seconded by Councilor Rourke. Councilor Mercia.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. There was a project some months ago to form a walkway along the Concord River, and in doing so, they had to take property, and now I will say that a lot of the property was City of Lowell property because it was not really quite defined that well as to what the neighbors, the resident owned, or the city owned. So over the course of the years, when people didn't realize that a walkway was going to take place, people put up grapevines, people used that land for gardens so that it was intertwined with city land and their own land. Now that the city came along and notified all the abutters along, and I want to say Merrill Street in the area off of Rogers, they put a beautiful walkway there. Now it remains that the neighbors were told to take down what you have because the city is coming along. Now that the walkway is built, residents want to put back up their grape vines, their arbors, they want to define the property. If some of it is owned by the city, they'd like to acquire it to make it a final, sort of like a marriage. There are neighbors there, not that many, but there are neighbors there that want to put up a fence. They can't put up a fence yet because they're unsure as to putting up a fence, and the city hasn't said that you have the right to do that yet. So a lot is left to be desired here. I know that in the DPD, we had Patty Luckin from the DPD who was in charge of all this here. If we could set up some sort of a agreement with or order or whatever with the planning department to see if we could finalize that marriage, so to speak, of the land so that they could make it whole for them. I'm not saying give them the land or whatever. They'll be willing to pay for whatever they probably don't own. They don't want to take something that doesn't belong to them. And of course, they did use a lot of that land. We're not talking about very much, but we need to make them whole again. We did disrupt their peace and quiet, their tranquility. Of course, we have a beautiful walkway going through there. There are some concerns with neighbors wanting to put up fences because sometimes there are people that are congregating there that probably don't want to enjoy the walkway. They want to enjoy a private party, if you know what I mean. So if we could just address that issue, I promised the residents along there that I would bring this up as a motion and refer it to you, Mr. Manager. So that's the gist of this motion here. I told them months ago, they asked what would happen with this land, how would they ever get this to be finalized, and I said that I'd bring their message forward, and that's what I'm doing with this motion, if you understand where I'm going with it. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Council Mercia. Council Martin.
Thank you. I agree. There hopefully is a way to accommodate the interests of private landowners. I've been on the Concord River on the whitewater rafting trips. I know others here have, and part of what really makes that trip remarkable is you look out in the heart of a city and you see things like vineyards growing in the areas that Councilor Mercia describes. And that's part of what makes this attractive for a walkway. You have this sort of rural, almost utopian paradise in the middle of a city. And so these folks have cared for that land, maybe not theirs for a lot of years, but I think, that's sort of keeping in the spirit of what we're trying to accomplish here, is this sort of natural use in the heart of a city, and the walkway is to share that with other people. But the other thing about a walkway is, you really need private landowners to be invested in it. You don't want it isolated. The more private abutters, I think, that you have along a walkway, the more likely it is to get proper use and not, some sort of disruptive or criminal use. So you really want the abutters to be stewards, like they have been over generations now. So, I support the motion. I think it's sort of in the spirit of what the city is intending to do there, is to, sort of share this resource with all the citizens of Lowell, and to get the abutters to sort of buy into that and care for what they've always cared for, I think can only help the project in the long run. So I support the motion. I think it's a good idea.
Thank you, Council Martin. Further discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to the next motion of the evening, we have Councilor Mercia. Request city manager find ways and means to relocate the dog park if the present dog park site is dissolved. Seconded by Councilor Rourke. Councilor Mercia.
Will you be surprised to know that this motion speaks for itself? Thank you.
Is anyone? Thank you, Councilor Mercia.
Bow wow, I should have said.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion passes. Next motion of the evening, by Councilor Mercia. Request city manager arrange a meeting with UMass Lowell Human Relations Director and person in charge of student services, UMass Lowell Chief of Police, and Superintendent of the Lowell Police Department to discuss the issues affecting the Pawtucketville neighborhood. Second by Councilor Milano. Councilor Mercia.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. This motion came to my attention through the PCC and Deb Forgione, as well as members of the Pawtucketville Citizen Council. It seems to me that 3 years ago, the then Chancellor Marty Meehan held this very type of meeting. And I believe it wasn't in City Hall. I could have made this like a motion and referred it to the UMass Lowell or Higher Education Subcommittee, but we didn't want a setting like that where someone comes before the microphone and speaks. It would be like a roundtable discussion and people can converse back and forth as to what the issues are and bring all parties involved. Human Relations Director, I talked to Paul Marion. He suggested I got everybody on board as to, I even talked to the new Chancellor, Jackie Maloney, to try to get her to understand this, and she was amenable to it. So it's just that we want to get all people together because I know when students go into UMass Lowell, they're met with some sort of an advisor or director that tells the students what their duties are as it relates to being good neighbors in the neighborhood. I don't know what's happening there. Maybe they could tell us and we could be on the same page, because there are issues and we don't know if these particular students weren't aware of how to maneuver in neighborhoods. I don't know, but I'd like to get all parties together. I discussed this with Michael McGovern, and so that's the gist of this motion. So everybody gets an understanding and knowledge as to what each job is related to whom that we talk about here, so.
And thank you, Council. I agree. Further discussion? I think it's a good motion. I think every year we should go through this process. I mean, we have new students come in every year. We get a couple of emails, Mr. Manager, that we sent to you. I know that you addressed it with kids coming and parties in certain neighborhoods. So, I think it's a good routine to go through. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. In the opposed, motion carries. Next motion of the evening by Councilor Mercia. Request City Manager invite all the artists whose paintings adorn City Council chambers to an upcoming City Council meeting. Second by Councilor Samaras. Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Some time ago, when we were noticing the beautiful paintings that adorn this beautiful chamber, we had an arts and culture subcommittee, and people were coming along, and we said that it would be nice to have the people that actually were the artists of these beautiful works to come before the council and let the people at home be introduced to such talented people. But that never happened, and I kind of forgot about that as well. But we had a beautiful, cool demonstration as to what their plans are, and it was very, very good. Susan Halter did a remarkable job, and at that time, they named a Person of the Year who had contributed immensely to the arts and culture of the city. And that person, in his acceptance speech, said that wouldn't it be nice if we would have had the people that actually did this artwork, these paintings, come before the council. And yet, he said exactly what we had said at this Arts and Culture Subcommittee. So I'm asking if we could then bring the 13 artists to these 13 beautiful paintings before the council and thank them publicly for gracing this beautiful chamber with their talent. So that's the gist of this motion, to make something that we asked for actually happen. So that's what that motion is about.
Thank you, Councilor Mercia.
Thank you.
Councilor Leahy, I know that you hosted.
Oh, yes, no, thank you. It's a great motion. I just wanted to ask, through you to the manager, I understand if we could just schedule this a couple weeks out in time to just repair the wall over there. What's that? No, the wall up here.
Oh, the wall up here.
I understand we're getting a lift to do some roof work, and that would take care of the leak, and we could touch up the wall. And then just one other quick note, we were supposed to have a couple more pictures up top, so I think they're in the process of finishing that up, and then that would complete, and we could have everybody in. That would be great. Thank you.
We did, Councilor Mercia, try to have a gathering this past summer. What was it summer for? And I'm not sure it was the best time of year because a lot of the artists just couldn't come. So it's a very good idea. So should Councilor Leahy, is it Mr. Harmon that has that complete list? I know there's a plaque right out front that has all of the artists and contributors.
Yeah, it actually might be.
Do you have the list?
There's a plaque somewhere, but
It's
Mr.
right behind
Harmon
you.
has that.
Right.
Sure.
Okay.
But there's something over in the corner too by Grant, so
Okay.
it's in one
Well,
corner here.
so we'll make that happen.
Thank you.
Councilor Mercia.
I think that's
All those,
great.
further discussion on this? All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed? Motion passes. Next motion of the evening is a joint motion between Councilor Milanazzo and Councilor Rourke. There's actually 1, 2, 3 motions relative to traffic in the city. Is there any objection if we take them all together? Councilor Milanazzo, Councilor Rourke, and Councilor Leahy. I'll read all three of them. First motion is Councilor Milanazzo, motion to take all three together by Councilor Martin, second by Councilor Kennedy. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion carries. First motion, Councilor Milanazzo, Councilor Rourke, request manager contact Mass Department of Transportation to discuss adjusting the timing of the signals on the Rourke Bridge to accommodate both morning and afternoon traffic volumes. Next motion is by Councilor Rourke. Request city manager have traffic engineer review general traffic patterns in the city and explore options to lessen traffic. Third motion by Councilor Leahy. Request city manager have proper department work with Mass DOT to alleviate traffic congestion while work is being done on the Bridge Street VFW highway intersection. With that, we'll go with Councilor Milanazzo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To follow up on some of what Councilor Mercia said about the Pawtuckaville Citizens Council, Councilor Rourke and I attended the September meeting. We heard from a number of residents about the issue around the Rourke Bridge in the morning going outbound and then in the afternoon coming inbound. And apparently the signalization is impacting Old Ferry Road, where traffic sits on Old Ferry Road for probably 4 or 5 sequences of light changes, and they don't actually move out on to Pawtucket Boulevard. So it's becoming quite a problem, and both Councilor Rourke and I indicated that we'd bring this to the attention of the city manager and ask, as the motion indicates, to contact Mass DOT to discuss the timing of the lights. I know there's been talk in the past about having it one way inbound, one way outbound during certain times of the day. Again, I'm not sure that's feasible, but I think if we can look at the timing of the lights, I think that would go a long way to alleviating some of the problems. And again, I will defer to Councilor Rourke as well.
Councilor Rourke?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, it's one of those yearly things that does happen when school gets back in session. Vacations end, so it's just more volume on the street. And I do remember at this point in time last year that there was a change made to the traffic lights where it did help improve the volume. So whatever can be done would be terrific. So thank you.
Thank you, Council. Councilor Samaras?
Just speaking on this issue, I was going to make a motion on the issue of traffic. I think all of us have received a number of calls from people regarding this. On Councilor Rourke's, the issue of the traffic engineer reviewing general traffic patterns, I'd also ask the police look at various intersections in the city. An example last night was at the Centerville Social Club neighborhood meeting, in which people talked about the same issues that I've faced. If you're going into County Square from East Merrimack Street, and cars are coming across from Prescott onto Bridge, what you see many times, they're going through the yellow light, stop in the middle of County Square, and instead of 8 or 9 or 10 cars moving at a time, you're lucky to have 1 or 2 move. And I think till we get into some of these areas and ticket some of these cars, the problem is only going to get worse, because what happened, like one night I was there, and it was 14 minutes before I went from the auditorium to County Square. I mean, that's a long time for the downtown. So I'm asking, besides looking at traffic patterns, just putting our police in certain intersections that we know this type of problem occurs, and see if that can help the situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Councilor Leahy?
Thank you. My 2 cents would be, I'm a firm believer in painting. So on some of these intersections.
Not crosswalks.
No, those two. But so when you come down Old Ferry Road, it's, people make 2 lanes, left or right. But because it's not marked properly, you get the occasional person who wants to sit in the middle of the road and they congest everything. And same thing on entering the Rourke Bridge from Wood Street. I think if, I don't know if we can do it or it might be state, but again, if we could paint that so people know to go to the end to merge. People, sometimes they'll merge in the middle or the beginning and the whole lane's open. And you could get a few more cars and relieve some of the congestion behind you if people would just pull up all the way and then merge at the end. So some of these situations, by having the road properly marked, would alleviate it. So maybe, we could have a traffic engineer look at that also. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Further discussion on these motions? Mr. Manager, I just had actually a question for you before you provide an explanation, but my understanding, I believe Mr. Bakey, when Mr. Bakey was here, particularly with the Rourke Bridge, that sensors were going to be installed at that intersection. So they were going to be able to accommodate more traffic during the busier times of the day, both outbound and inbound. Was that ever done? Because that was going to alleviate, and that was going to be done by Mass Highway. So, I think that would help. I think sometimes it's just general volume going back and forth over the bridge because it backs up from the bridge almost all the way to Route 3. So I think, the old, if we could sync those lights, I think that would move that volume a lot. So I'm in that every day. So, Mr. Manager, on these traffic issues?
I feel your pain. I've been receiving a number of complaints. I've experienced it myself. I was driving to the Cool Breakfast last week. I finally had to pull over and walk because you just couldn't move in downtown Lowell. This morning on my morning walk, I couldn't believe it. Traffic was backed up Stevens Street for a mile from Chelmsford Street. So we've scheduled an emergency meeting tomorrow morning with the Superintendent of Police and Deputy Chief Ryan to begin the process to talk about traffic congestion. Should there be a police officer at some of these intersections directing traffic so when the heavy, to alleviate the congestion? But it's something that I know what everybody's talking about. We're addressing the issue. I might suggest that we start with this emergency meeting. Also, we'll contact Mark Kratman from DOT relative to Bridge Street and the Rourke Bridge, and then give a report to the subcommittee as to what we have been doing and what are some of the other ideas that we can do to help out this. But we are following up on it. I feel your pain just as much as anybody else.
Yeah, Mr. Manager, I was just going to suggest, we know that, the good news is that UMass Lowell is expanding and it brings life to the city. It also comes with the price of students and vehicles is, it seems like it would be fair and reasonable for them to engage them, to put some of their officers to direct some traffic, because those are the intersections that are really experiencing a lot of being clogged.
That's an excellent idea, and we've talked about that in the past. There are some issues whether they have the authority to issue a ticket on some of these. So whether it's, but we are dealing with them, and they will be part of this. They will be part of this solution. Middlesex Community College, UMass Lowell, Mass DOT, everything to alleviate the congestion in the city.
And just, sorry.
Councilor Marcia?
I just want to, I think this might have been corrected, but a woman called me up frantic. She was coming home from Methuen into Lowell, and she's coming down 110 to go up the ramp to go around the Hunts Fall Bridge into the area of East Merrimack Street. Now picture the other line going to that beautiful spot that goes into one lane that Councilor Leahy was talking about that isn't ever going to be addressed in this particular project. And people don't want to wait in this line, so they're coming right around and they're trying to merge into where they're not supposed to. They're bypassing the line to the point where all the cars piled up to merge, and then the poor woman from the coming to go around the Huntsville Bridge can't make that turn. So she looked and tooted. The guy actually got out of his car, went up to her window. She thought he was going to hit her. We can't have this happening, this road rage thing here. There should be a police officer patrol stationed there to ward that off, not allow that to happen. I don't want anybody getting hurt because of people's tempers, because they think they own the road to cut off and won't wait in the line like everybody else. And everybody's doing it and blocking the free flow around to get them to the other part of the city. So I did address this with Michael. I don't know what happened, but it's frustrating, and I don't want anybody to get hurt. This isn't right. Thank you.
I think it's good, Mr. Manager, you're calling an immediate meeting, because there's a lot of frustration out there. Councilor Leahy?
And if I can just add one other thing, that's part of the problem is the police would have a better time enforcing this. So the backup on Bridge Street, the road isn't painted coming down Nesmith Street much. It's worn out. and you've got the single lane on the right, and you got people going over to the left, but some of them, go way over to the left, they're in the other side of the street, but there's no clear marking that would help the police. And same thing again, when you come down to the Hunts Fall Bridge, I don't know why people don't want to merge at the end, but they all hug the right side of the road, the left lane's open, and it just backs and backs up. So these merging issues and painting the lines would help the police also enforce. And there's a lot of road rage out there right now
is.
because of the traffic, so,
Terrible.
thank you.
Thank you, Council. Further discussion on these motions? Nope. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. And the opposed, motion carries. This brings us to 10.7. This motion by Council Leahy, request city manager of proper department explore possibility of planting 2 trees at the corner of Merrimack and Cabot Street. Second by Council Kennedy. Council Leahy?
Thank you. After speaking with the manager's office and Mark Corcoran from the Jean d'Arc, just trying to keep the corners clean, and then I noticed that there were a couple of spots where we had trees, and I don't know when, but over the years, they've been cut down and not replaced. So anything we could do to help, again, beautify that corner would help with, so people know that, if they see it's beautiful and it's a nice place, hopefully it'll curb the litter and, people from disrespecting it. So I just noticed that and I put the request in. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Council Kennedy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the manager. If there's no objection from Council Leahy, could we also include some trees? There's a segment of Wentworth Avenue from Shepherd Street to Laurel Street that used to have a lot of trees. And over time, trees have been taken down, and so now there's, I think, practically none. But there is, for instance, a little island at the corner of Birch Street and Wentworth Avenue, right on the corner of the school property, where a tree could be planted, and maybe there could be some other trees. I don't know why they were taken down. It just sort of happened, I think, over time. But that little segment of Wentworth Avenue could certainly use a few trees.
Thank you, Council. Further discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed, motion carries. We disposed of 10.8, so it brings us to 10.9. Motion by Council Belanger. Request city manager update council regarding Pawtucket voting precincts. Second by Council Samaras. Council Belanger?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Obviously, this motion was brought to, probably, I'm not the only one that's heard from Pawtucketville residents on this and neighborhood groups of the sort of fiasco that took place with this voting, I think it's Ward 6, Precinct 1 and 2, the Wang School, that these voters were literally bounced all over the place from one location to another, and then it was undecided. But it just does not go over well when, we're adding some, if that's the case, the last thing we need is confusion to voters who we already know numbers are declining coming out to the booth, and to add confusion is certainly not healthy. So, Mr. Manager, through you, I think we're all set now. I think we're back at the Wang School, and that's great, because in my opinion, that's where voting needs to stay in schools, because they're handicap accessible and people are used to going there. And I think if we toy with that, it could be very detrimental. So, Mr. Manager, I'm going to say for clarification purposes, what went down here and what do we do to correct it?
Mr. Manager? And Council
Thank you,
Leahy.
Mr. Mayor. Through you, well, there was some confusion, and especially with the wrong card being set out, but we've done everything we can to notify the residents through radio, social media, everything as part of the Citizens Council. And so for one more time, I'm going to announce to everybody that's watching that those residents that vote in Ward 5, Precinct 1, in Ward 6, Precinct 1, will be voting at the McAvenue School at 131 Mammoth Road. And those residents who live in Ward 6, Precinct 2, and Ward 6, Precinct 3 will be voting at the Pawtucketville Memorial School at 425 West Meadow Road.
Thank you, Mr. Manager.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Manager. But what is the logic here? Are we trying to get away from schools, or how, what's, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Mr. Manager.
We're not trying to get away from schools. Schools are trying to get away from us.
Okay,
You know,
okay.
they don't want us to be, and it's a recipe for disaster to have the schools open and voting at the same time. I understand that. What I would like to do, and what I'm going to try and do, is to work out some type of agreement with the school department to close the schools on both primary election day, and we also have the presidential primary coming up in March. I think I agree with you. You know, the neighborhood schools is where you should be voting, in the neighborhood where you live. It makes the most sense, but at the same time, I understand the schools not wanting, you know, in this day and age, people walking in and actually going to the same bathroom as the kids are going to. So I'm going to be working with the superintendent to hopefully work out an agreement, if we can, that you close the schools on the election days and allow the voting to take place in the natural neighborhood areas that they belong in.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. I mean, I can respect that argument from the school department regarding safety, the way things are today, I do. But still, I still think voting precincts belong in schools. And if we hopefully can work it out where those days are closed, I know it needs to be made up at the end of the year, but I think that's in the best interest of democracy and voting for us to hopefully increase voter numbers throughout the year. So, okay, it's been rectified, and we'll just learn from it, and it seems to be taken care of. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Council. Council Leahy.
Thank you. Through you to the manager. I agree 100% with you. And speaking with Mr. Georges today, there's got to be something we can figure out on this. And as Councilor Kennedy said, there's always a solution. So, working with the superintendent to get credit for those days, the teachers could have their workshops. And, I don't know, maybe we could even go as far as petitioning the state or something, so when these kids have the day off, they have a homework assignment at home. And I think other communities or states are doing that. So we could get credit for the day for the kids and the teachers. That's the biggest stumbling block. But I agree. I mean, the schools are the best locations for voting, and, unless we have something come up like this year with the city preliminary, most voting days, we should know well in advance. So I think it's, I'll just say good luck with the negotiation, but I think it's the best solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And of course, we will have it updated in the newspaper. Yes, we will, so that people will look at the newspaper and see the updated, state-of-the-art, great, grand place where they vote. So that'll be good. That's fine.
There's your tall order, Mr. Walker. Further discussion on this motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. Last motion of the evening by Councilor Samaras. Request city manager work with Parks Department to prepare Kerouac Park for the upcoming Columbus Day weekend and the Kerouac Festival. Second by Councilor O'Rourke. Councilor Samaras.
Thank you, Mayor Elliott. We all know that Parks person, Mr. Bellegarde, does a great job in any type of events like this come along. But I want to just ensure that he gets the support that's necessary. When you look at the Kerouac Festival that will be held at Kerouac Park, there are literally many hundreds of people that will visit that park. As a matter of fact, Lowell High School, prior to the Columbus weekend, will have a youth poetry contest. There'll be a dozen other activities in the park or in the city. UMass will hold 5 events celebrating Kerouac weekend. Well, but when you look at Kerouac Park, I'd like to add, Mr. Manager, that we look at better lighting, repair of the sculptures, and the granite chairs or benches. Several weeks ago, we had the Lowell Food and Wine Festival with the Food Truck Festival that was very, very successful. And this is an indication of how that park can be used. And I just see it, as time goes on, more use of it and better use of it. And when you talk about celebrating the Kerouac Festival, you're talking about someone who is known worldwide, worldwide reputation. And because of him, we get many visitors, not only from outside the city, but outside the state and outside the country. So we want Lowell to have its best foot forward, and I think a little more attention to Kerouac Park will help in the long run. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Further discussion on this motion?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Belanger.
A real quick point. I just wanted to stress that recently the Lowell Beer and Wine Festival was held at Kerouac Park just about over a week ago. It was very well attended, and it was well received by the people who were there, the folks from all over the place. I know the manager and Mike McGovern were there, and many councils were there. It was a great festival, and you could see the sheer beauty of this park, and it was enjoyed, and they need to be utilized. But part of the problem is that why we have a bad element there is because it's bordered by what I'm sorry to say is too many trees on the street, which kind of shields the park, unfortunately. I don't know what you can do, but I commend Council Samaras for this motion to get it prepared. But a beautiful park it is, and it needs to be utilized more. Thank you very much.
Mr. Manager?
It was great, but my wife thought I was at a seminar in Boston, Corey, so, but no, it was a great
Just
time.
got you in trouble then.
Can't use that excuse anymore. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye, and the opposed, that motion carries. That concludes the business before the council this evening. Entertain a motion to adjourn by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Rourke. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, that motion carries. This meeting stands adjourned. Have a good night.